Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to discuss about veins of the lower limb or venous drainage of the lower limb. It is an important topic from examination point of view. Lower limb, it consists of anatomically and functionally three sets of veins, three distinguishable sets of veins. They are superficial, deep and perforator veins. Okay, so lower limb consists of three sets of veins: superficial veins, deep veins and perforating veins. So we shall start this lecture with a clinical anatomy. Let us begin with a clinical case. A former pub landlady, Val Clark, admits she was blissfully ignorant of the dangers of deep vein thrombosis. She doesn't know what is deep vein thrombosis. So she had gone out with friends for a holiday in the US. But cramped conditions on the return flight led to blood clots, a lengthy spell in hospital, and eventually the loss of her leg. The vital signs of the patient. Just 2 days after her US flight, Mrs. Clark started to suffer serious problems. Her feet were swollen and sore, but because Mrs. Clark had never heard of deep vein thrombosis, she missed the vital signs. She just ignored the vital signs, and she then started suffering from excruciating pains and needed to be rushed to the hospital. So she told in her words, "I could not walk, my legs were numb, and I was in pain. I was rushed to the hospital. I needed to be resuscitated twice." Then 6 weeks later, she was released. She was discharged from the hospital, but her legs became worse, and just before Christmas 1995, she was brought back in to have her leg amputated. Her leg was cut, amputated, even though they had taken all the clots away from her leg. Was swollen and needed to have the leg amputated. So this is the clinical case. So you can imagine how dangerous is the deep vein thrombosis. So being an anatomy student, you must know that what are the veins in the lower limb, how many types of veins we have, what are superficial veins, what are deep veins, and what are perforator veins. Coming to the subject, veins of the lower limb. So veins of the lower limb have been classified into superficial, deep and perforator veins. The superficial veins, they lie in the superficial fascia. So once you reflect the skin of the lower limb, you come across superficial fascia. So within the superficial fascia, you have the superficial veins, and essentially we have the great and small saphenous veins. Okay, so superficial veins, we have the great saphenous vein and the short saphenous vein or the small saphenous vein. Then we have deep veins. Deep veins, they are surrounded and supported by powerful muscles. Okay, they are enclosed within the muscle itself. So these deep veins, they accompany the arteries. Like in the lower limb we have tibial artery, peroneal arteries, popliteal and femoral artery. So the veins, they accompany the arteries in the lower limb. Those are the deep veins. So below the knee, the deep veins are arranged as a pair of venae committents. Mark my word, venae committents. So venae committents are nothing but deep veins are arranged as a pair along the arteries. Okay, so they are known as venae committents. So deep veins, we have the femoral vein, profunda femoris vein and popliteal vein. Then the last we have the perforator veins. So the perforating veins, they communicate superficial veins with deep veins by piercing the deep fascia. So what are the perforator veins we have? The peroneal veins, anterior and posterior tibial veins. So what basically they do, the perforator veins, they communicate superficial veins with the deep veins by piercing the deep fascia. So the position of perforators, perforating veins, they are worthy to note because of their role in the formation of varicose veins. So they are responsible for the formation of varicose veins. We will study in detail about the varicose vein in further slides. So these are the veins of the lower limb which have been classified into superficial, deep and perforators, and we shall discuss about each type of vein in detail. Okay, especially we will focus on great saphenous vein and short saphenous vein, which are important from examination point of view. So all the veins of the lower limb, remember, all the veins of the lower limb, they are provided with valves. So to direct blood flow to the heart. So this is particularly against the gravity in upright position. Okay, so this is against the gravity. So the blood has to move towards the heart. So all the veins of the lower limb, they are guarded by valves. Okay, the veins from muscles draining into the deep veins are valved, except those in the soleus. So in the soleus we have got venous plexus or venous sinuses. So the blood flow is sluggish in the soleal sinuses when the muscle are at rest. So when the muscle, the soleus is at rest, when it is in the resting condition, so the blood flow is sluggish in the soleal sinuses. So the prolonged rest in bed, which is adopted by some patients after a surgical operation, so that they may develop this deep vein thrombosis, and that eventually leads to complication of pulmonary embolism. Okay, so the perforating veins are valved at each end and they permit blood flow from superficial to deep veins and not in the opposite direction. So this is a little introduction about the veins of the lower limbs and the various types of the veins in the lower limb. Let us discuss about superficial veins of the lower limb. The long saphenous vein, it is also known as the great saphenous vein, and it is the longest vein of the body. Okay, so if you see the course of the superficial vein, that is great saphenous vein, it begins as a continuation of the medial end of the dorsal venous arch. So this is the dorsal venous arch and supplemented by medial marginal vein, together form the long saphenous vein or the great saphenous vein. Okay, so it runs 1 to 1.5 inches anterior to the medial malleolus, along the medial side of the leg and behind the knee, and medial side of the thigh, and eventually reaches the saphenous opening. So this vein, it occupies the posterior medial aspect of the knee joint and posterior to the patella. It runs upward along the medial side of the thigh and reaches the saphenous opening, which lies 3 cm below and lateral to the pubic tubercle. So the vein passes through a saphenous opening after piercing the cribriform fascia. So basically you find here the cribriform fascia, sieve-like fascia, and even finally it drains into the femoral vein. So great saphenous vein, it drains into the femoral vein after piercing the femoral sheath. So first it pierces cribriform fascia, then femoral sheath, then it enters the femoral vein. So at ankle, the position of the long saphenous vein is constant. It lying in the groove between the anterior border of the medial malleolus and tendinus tibialis anterior. So exactly at this region. Let us discuss about the tributaries of the great saphenous vein or the long saphenous vein. Number 1, we have posterior arch vein. This is below the knee. Below the knee we have posterior arch vein. So it collects the blood from posterior medial aspect of the calf. Calf region is nothing but back of the leg. Okay, posterior medial aspect of the calf, and consists of series of venous arcades connecting 3 medial ankle perforators. Okay, so it consists of series of venous arcades or venous channels connecting the 3 medial ankle perforators. Then we have anterior leg vein. It extends diagonally across the shin of the tibia and joins the great saphenous vein. Across the shin of the tibia. Shin of the tibia, it is subcutaneous, just below the knee, anterior aspect of the leg. You can make out the shin of the tibia. So it runs diagonally across the shin and joins with the great saphenous vein. Then a few veins from the calf which communicate with the small saphenous vein. Okay, they also drain into the anterior leg vein and eventually into the great saphenous vein. Then in the thigh we have anterolateral vein. This is in the thigh. So it commences from the venous plexus on the lower part of the front of the thigh. So it commences from the venous plexus on the lower part of the front of the thigh, and it crosses the apex of the femoral triangle and joins the great saphenous vein in the upper part of the thigh. So that is about anterolateral vein in the thigh. Then we have posterior medial vein. This is also in the thigh. Sometimes it is known as accessory saphenous vein. It drains the posterior and medial aspects of thigh and joins with the great saphenous vein. So sometimes this posterior medial vein communicates below with the small saphenous vein. So that you should remember. So just before piercing the cribriform fascia, we have the tributaries like the superficial epigastric vein, then superficial circumflex iliac vein, then superficial external pudendal vein. So these veins, they accompany corresponding superficial branches of the femoral artery. If you remember, these 3 veins, they accompany superficial branches of the femoral artery, The superficial epigastric, the superficial circumflex iliac and superficial external pudendal veins drain the blood from the lower part of the abdominal wall below the umbilicus. So the superficial external pudendal vein, it passes superficial to the spermatic cord and drains part of the scrotum and receives blood from the superficial dorsal vein of the penis. Then we have thoracoepigastric vein. The thoracoepigastric vein, it runs along the anterolateral wall of the trunk and occasionally connects superficial epigastric vein with the lateral thoracic vein, and it establishes communication between the femoral and axillary vein. So these are the veins just before piercing the cribriform fascia. We have superficial epigastric, superficial circumflex iliac and superficial external pudendal. So they drain into the femoral vein. Then we have deep to the saphenous opening, we have deep external pudendal vein, that is deep to the saphenous opening. So they passes deep to the spermatic cord after draining blood from the anterior part of the perineum and finally terminates into the great saphenous vein. Just before and later opens into the later opens into the femoral vein. So these are the tributaries of the great saphenous vein. Okay. So let us have a quick revision of the long saphenous vein. I told you that in the thigh it inclines forwards to reach the saphenous opening. This is the saphenous opening, you can see in this picture. So where it pierces the cribriform fascia and opens into the femoral vein after piercing the femoral sheath 3 to 4 cm below and lateral to the pubic tubercle. Okay. So in lower 2/3 of leg and in upper 2/3 of the thigh, the vein lies on the deep fascia. Where the vein crosses the knee joint, it becomes more superficial and often subcuticular. Subcuticular just below the skin, you can make out the long saphenous vein. Structures accompanying the long saphenous vein: in the leg, saphenous nerve lies in close relation to the long saphenous vein. So the nerve is very closely applied to the vein in lower 2/3 of the leg and often injured in exploring or stripping the saphenous vein. So it is closely related in the lower 2/3 of the leg. So often during surgical procedures it may get damaged, the saphenous nerve. So in the thigh, medial femoral cutaneous nerve runs in close relation with the vein. Throughout the length of the long saphenous nerve, it is accompanied by lymphatic trunk staining the dorsum of the foot and anterior and medial aspects of the leg and thigh. So these lymphatic drain in the superficial inguinal lymph nodes. Let us discuss again the tributaries of the long saphenous vein and the communication. Just below the knee, I told you that long saphenous vein receives posterior arch vein or the Leonardo's vein, so which collects blood from the posterior medial aspect of the calf. The anterior veins of leg we have, it is also known as the stocking vein. It ascends across the shin of the tibia and join either long saphenous vein or the posterior arch vein. So there is a free anastomosis between the tributaries of the short saphenous vein and venous arch connecting the medial ankle perforating veins, and these medial ankle perforating veins are connected with long saphenous vein in the lower 1/3 of the leg. In the thigh, before entering in the saphenous opening, it receives the anterolateral vein, then posterior medial vein, the superficial external pudendal vein, and superficial epigastric vein, and superficial circumflex iliac vein, and deep external pudendal vein. Now these are the receiving channels within the long saphenous vein. You must remember, so that superficial epigastric, superficial circumflex iliac, and superficial external pudendal and deep external pudendal. They drain into the saphenous, long saphenous vein. So in the lower 1/3 of the thigh, long saphenous vein connects with the femoral vein in Hunter's canal by long perforating vein, that is Hunterian perforator we say. Okay, so about the perforating veins we will discuss in detail. Short saphenous vein, it begins by fusion of number of small veins below and behind the lateral malleolus. You can see here. So this vein begins below and behind the lateral malleolus as a continuation of the lateral end of the dorsal venous arch, supplemented by lateral marginal vein. Okay, supplemented by lateral the marginal vein of the foot. So this vein, it ascends along the lateral edge of the tendocalcaneus. It ascends along the lateral edge of the tendocalcaneus and it is accompanied by sural nerve on its lateral side. So we can make out the sural nerve on its lateral side. Then the vein runs along the middle of the back of the leg and it pierces the deep fascia and it undergoes the subfascial course between the two heads of the gastrocnemius. You can see here the two heads of the gastrocnemius. So between the two heads of the gastrocnemius, it undergoes subfascial course and reaches the middle of the popliteal fossa or the popliteal space, where it dips sharply to terminate into the popliteal vein. Okay. So the posterior femoral cutaneous nerve, it accompanies the upper part of the vein while passing from deep to the superficial. So what you should remember here, that the short saphenous vein drains into the popliteal vein, whereas the long saphenous vein drains into the femoral vein. That is the difference. Okay. So you find that the small saphenous vein, it may have variable terminations. Okay. Sometimes it joins with the great saphenous vein. Okay, through accessory saphenous vein, that you must remember. So it may bifurcate, one joining the great saphenous vein and other ending in the popliteal veins. Okay, so that is number 3. Occasionally it fails to reach the knee and ends in the great saphenous vein or deep veins of the legs. So this small saphenous vein, it consists of 7 to 13 valves. You find 7 to 13 valves in the short saphenous vein. So that is about the short saphenous vein. Deep veins, these veins, they lie in the deep facial plane and are surrounded by powerful muscles of the leg. So deep veins, we have anterior and posterior tibial veins, peroneal vein, popliteal vein, femoral vein. So they accompany the corresponding arteries. Let us talk about the perforating veins. So you see a constant number of perforating veins with their fixed positions are found to connect the tributaries of saphenous vein with the deep veins after piercing the deep fascia. Okay, so there are certain number of perforating veins with fixed positions. They are found to connect the tributaries of the saphenous veins with the deep veins after piercing the deep fascia. So the perforators are provided with the valves at each end and they direct blood flow from superficial to deep veins. That is the significance of the perforating veins. So we will see in the following slides about the positions of the perforators. Okay. So we can classify perforators into the indirect veins and the direct veins. Okay, we shall discuss about. So let us discuss about the positions of the perforators. First one, we have a mid-Hunter perforator Let's say this is the mid-hunter, the Hunterian perforator in the proximal thigh. So this is our mid-hunter perforator. It connects great saphenous vein with the femoral vein. Okay, great saphenous vein with the femoral vein in the Hunter's canal or the adductor canal. So that is mid-hunter perforator or the Hunterian perforator in the proximal thigh. Then we have a knee perforator. It connects the great saphenous vein. It connects the great saphenous vein with the posterior tibial vein. It connects great saphenous vein with the posterior tibial vein just below the knee. Just below the knee, you can see here, and it is close to the medial border of the tibia. I repeat, a knee perforator. It connects great saphenous vein with the posterior tibial vein below the knee and close to the medial border of the tibia. That is also known as the Boyd's perforator. Okay. Then next we have the 3 medial ankle perforators. Here you can make out 1, 2 and 3. Here also 1, 2 and 3 medial ankle perforators. So they are situated close to the medial border of the lower 1/3 of the tibia, and these medial ankle perforators, they connect great saphenous vein with the posterior tibial vein. Posterior tibial vein. So if you see the upper one, this one, the upper medial ankle perforator, it lies at the junction of middle and lower 1/3 of the tibia. So the lower one is situated below and behind the medial malleolus, and the middle perforator intervenes midway between them. So these 3 medial ankle perforators, they join one another by a series of arcades which form posterior arch vein. Okay, so eventually they form posterior arch vein. Then one perforator we have lateral ankle perforator. Okay, the lateral ankle perforator. So it communicates short saphenous vein with the peroneal vein, and it is situated at the junction of middle and lower 1/3 of the leg. That is, we say the lateral ankle perforator connecting the short saphenous vein with the peroneal vein. So you can see here, this is the complete the long saphenous vein. So the great saphenous vein or the long saphenous vein, it consists of about 10 to 20 valves. So it consists of about 10 to 20 valves. Remember this point, out of which one valve, it lies just before it pierces the cribriform fascia, and a terminal valve is located at its junction with the femoral vein. That is saphenofemoral valve. So it presents a functional importance. So in 80% of the people or the subjects, the external iliac vein presents a valve which protects saphenofemoral junction against high pressure. The remaining 20% of the unfortunate people, they possess no such valve and becomes victim of the varicose veins. We shall discuss about varicose veins from the saphenofemoral junction and extending gradually downwards. That leads to the absence of saphenofemoral valve. The absence of saphenofemoral valve leads to the varicose veins. We shall discuss in the applied anatomy about the varicose veins. The indirect perforating veins, they consist of small superficial veins which penetrate the deep fascia and connect with the vessel in the muscle, and it in turn end in the deep vein. These are indirect perforating veins. So because they consist of small saphenous vein, those seven superficial veins, small superficial veins, they penetrate the deep fascia to connect with the vessel in the muscle and turn in the deep vein. So direct perforators are nothing but they connect directly superficial veins with the deep veins. Let us discuss at the applied anatomy the varicose veins. The superficial veins of the lower limb, they are often dilated and tortuous and become varicose. So, see, over the area of varicosity, the skin becomes pigmented and suffers from lack of nutrition, which culminates in varicose ulcer. So that ulcer, it bleeds profusely and it needs immediate surgical attention to treat the varicose veins with an equal importance as though the heart bleeds from the backflow of blood. So what are the causes of these varicose veins? So number one, thrombosis of the deep veins, clotting of the deep veins. So persistent elevation of intra-abdominal pressure due to abdominal tumors or multiple pregnancies also it leads to varicose veins. Then number three is incompetency of valves in perforating veins and superficial veins or both. So that is most common cause, that is due to incompetence of the valves of the superficial veins. So normal flow of blood in the venous system depends upon the presence of competent valves which prevent reflux. So venous return is supplemented with contraction of the muscle in the lower limb which pump the blood towards the heart. Okay, so whenever the muscle contracts, the blood moves towards the heart. So when venous valves become incompetent, they tend to place extra pressure on the on more distal valves, which may also become incompetent. So this condition produces dilated, tortuous superficial veins. Those are known as varicose veins. So in the distribution of great and long, the short saphenous vein system. So some individuals may have genetic predisposition to develop the varicose veins. So you can see here the varicose veins. So bulging of the veins, you can see leg swelling, the skin color and texture changes, then venous ulcers also you can make. So this is all due to the incompetency of the valves. Okay. So we can see here the bulging of the veins. Okay. So incompetency of the valves in perforating veins or superficial veins are both, I said. The reason could be for the for the varicosity or the varicose veins. Incompetency of saphenofemoral valve also, that is at the thigh. Okay, so that incompetency of the saphenofemoral valve will throw great strain on more distal valves. So, and within a matter of time, the whole great saphenous vein becomes varicose. Complete great saphenous vein, it becomes varicose. So under these circumstances, the great saphenous vein is detached from the femoral vein at its point of entry, and its tributaries in the groin are ligated individually. So otherwise the varicosity will recur. Okay. Then we also have incompetency of valves in the perforating veins. So it produces high pressure leaks from the deep to the superficial veins with eventual varicosity of the superficial vein. So in identification of the so in the conditions like incompetency of the valves in the perforating veins, what you have to do, you have to identify the exact sites of defective perforators. That is essential. Okay, so before putting a ligature to such perforators. Okay, so when the numerous perforators are involved, the entire length of the great saphenous vein is removed by stripping operation, surgical stripping. that is the stripping operation. A flexible wire is introduced into the vein from the level of medial malleolus to the groin. So where it is brought out of the superficial veins after disconnecting from the saphenofemoral junction. So then you also have the endovenous thermal ablation closure, sclerotherapy, etc. In the thigh, before entering in the saphenous opening, it receives the anterolateral vein, then posteromedial vein, the superficial external pudendal vein, and superficial epigastric vein, and superficial circumflex iliac vein, and deep external pudendal vein. Now these are the receiving channels within the long saphenous vein. You must remember, so that superficial epigastric, superficial circumflex iliac, and superficial external pudendal, and deep external. Presentation and physical examination. Calf pain or tenderness are both, swelling with pitting, edema, swelling below the knee distal to the deep vein thrombosis and up to the groin in proximal deep vein thrombosis. Increased skin temperature, superficial venous dilatation, cyanosis can occur with severe obstruction. Great saphenous vein in coronary bypass surgery. So in patients with occlusive coronary disease caused by atherosclerosis, the diseased arterial segment can be bypassed by inserting a graft consist of a portion of a great saphenous vein. So the vein segment is reversed to prevent the obstruction of valves. So that is the significance of the great saphenous vein. So it can be used in coronary bypass surgery. Let us discuss about Trendelenburg's test. So this is done to recognize the sites of incompetent valves by using tourniquet or by applying pressure with the thumb. So vein is emptied by elevating the limb, as you can see here. The vein is emptied by elevating the limb and tourniquet is tied just below the saphenofemoral junction. So now the tourniquet is being tied over here by elevating the limb. The patient is asked to stand quickly. So when tourniquet or the thumb is released, you can apply thumb or you can tie a tourniquet. Okay. So when you release, the rapid filling from above signifies saphenofemoral incompetence. This is Trendelenburg's test 1. In Trendelenburg's test 2, after standing, the tourniquet is not released. The filling of blood from below upwards rapidly can be observed within 30 to 60 seconds. So that signifies perforator incompetence. Okay. So this is a Trendelenburg's test, or you can say tourniquet test. So recognition of the sites of incompetent valves can be made by tourniquet test. So you ask the patient to lie with the lower limbs exposed and the affected limb is elevated above the level of the heart to empty the varicose vein. Then you can also apply rubber tubing is applied firmly around the upper thigh to occlude the saphenous vein, but you should not occlude the femoral vein. Only the saphenous vein should be occluded. Now ask the patient to stand and produce gentle exercise also, you can tell. So if the varicosities remain empty for 30 seconds, communicating veins below the tube are competent. When filling takes place within this time, within the 30 seconds, so communicating veins are incompetent. That you should remember. So when the collapsed veins fill at once on removal of tubing or the tourniquet, the saphenofemoral valve is incompetent. So that is about the Trendelenburg's test. Thank you very much, and this is about complete about the venous drainage of the lower limb. It is very important question from the examination point of view. You have to elaborate the superficial veins, mainly the long saphenous vein and the short saphenous vein. Then the deep veins are of least important. Then you have to elaborate about the perforator veins, okay, and about the varicose veins. The clinical anatomy is very important. Thank you very much.